Today we are starting a new financial series, a series of understanding the financial planning process in an individual's life. For individuals, for families, for those who are struggling to make their life better, financial understanding is very necessary today. In fact, the success today depends to a very large extent on your understanding of finances and so-called financial intelligence quotient, because most people don't understand what exactly it involves planning financially. They just earn and keep spending. In the process, they at times overspend, they are under debt, and as the age grows, their financial pressures increase. Their responsibilities also increase. At the same time, their health also deteriorates as the aging takes place, and they find that life becomes a struggle rather than a very fulfilling experience. Most of us would like to have life as a fulfilling experience, an experience of happiness, an experience of bliss, an experience of ecstasy, an experience of having lived a great life, a dream life. Now, all dreams start with your goals and thereafter understanding as how those goals are to be achieved, and consistent effort over a long period of time. Same is true of financial planning. And when we talk of financial planning, we'll be talking of certain things which you'll understand through the process. Number one, you'll be able to identify certain benefits of using personal financial planning technique to manage your finances. Also, you'll understand the personal financial process of the planning process, and also at the same time define your goals and dreams in life. It also would entail the life cycle of financial planning. Actually, as the age changes, as the age grows, your roles keep changing. Okay, and you see, life cycle plays a very, very important role in planning your life, because you have special concerns as you pass through different phases of life, like rearing children, making a house, and so on and so forth. And this would definitely impact your professional work process as well as the financial process. And you can at the same time take off a financial professional also to plan your life. But then if you understand, it is better rather than going outside for help. Of course, help is necessary, but certain basic understanding on your part is also extremely important, extremely necessary. Also, you'll be able to examine the economic environment that ultimately impacts your financial planning process. At the same time, the impact of age, education, the location, all these have impact on your personal income, thereby on your personal saving, also on your investment avenues, and ultimately the outcomes and your expenditure at the same time. Also, you will make right kind of career choices if you understand financial planning process, because your career choices will ultimately be impacted by whatever choices you make for your career. Okay, how would you make the choices through the time that you are passing to? What will be your time preferences? All this will come step by step. Now, if I go for some financial planning process, definitely some of the impacts that I'll feel would be, first, it will improve my standard of living. I would be able to live a better life with a similar income or increased income, because financial planning process will also involve incremental income over a long period of time. Then my spending would be more wise, not wasteful, and in turn, if my spending is less than my incomes or inflows, definitely my wealth will be accumulated. So where would I invest to accumulate wealth and ultimately create a wealthy life out of whatever I am doing? So when we talk of financial processes, it will involve a lot of things, like first financial plans, then the results, and in between various decision processes, various decisions like your basic asset-based decisions, your credit decisions, your expenditure decisions, your investment decisions, and also a part of your retirement planning. All these would be important when we will talking of organizing the planning. Now, when we talk of personal financial plan, let's understand what it is. Now, when we talk of personal financial plan, it is number one, a systematic process. It considers important elements of individual financial affairs and with an objective of fulfilling certain goals that you have preset for yourself in connivance or together with your family or together with your financial planner or together with the people who are relevant to you or the relevant others in your life, with children or anybody else. Let me give a very important statement here, that financial planning process can start at any point in life. So at whatever stage of life cycle you are today, you can start from there itself. Of course, earlier the better. But even if it is slightly later in life or very late in life, it is never too late to start. Today is the best day to start your financial plan, so start doing it. Okay. Now, when we talk of different financial process, we'll be involving separate steps, different steps as far as financial planning is concerned. Number one, we have to define your financial goals. It's very important to understand what are your financial goals. Then develop financial plans and also strategies to achieve those goals. Okay. Now, what you have to understand, again, you have to prioritize these goals. Which goal is more important, which goal is less important. So, and also periodically you have to keep on assessing where you are reaching. We see the progress of your goals has to be understood, and also you have to create important budgets to achieve those goals. Then understand your life cycle, where you are, and what are the things that are necessary for you, and ultimately again redefine your goals as the life changes, the environment changes, and your personal priorities change. They keep on changing. Now, when we talk of financial goals, we are essentially talking of the results that an individual wants to attain. Of course, when we are talking of these goals, certain utility and costs are to be considered when evaluating alternative qualities of life, spending patterns, and forms of wealth accumulation. Okay. What sort of life you would like to choose yourself, the best or very consumption oriented life today or later in your life, that would define your spending patterns. Also, that will define the forms of your wealth accumulation. What sort of wealth you want to accumulate. If you already have a lot of real estate as inheritance, then the patterns would be different. However, if you are building up, the patterns would be different. Again, money and utility are very individualistic. They are basic, they belong to individuals. So they are extremely important variants and are psychologically linked to the values, emotions, and the personality of a person. Okay. And also, financial planning is a very important part of all conflict resolution processes. If you look at social life today, most conflicts arise out of financial aspects. So if you plan your finances properly, a lot of conflicts in your life would be resolved without much of a problem. Important thing is that all financial goals are to be dated. They have to be target dates for all goals. Why? Because goals without dates or without time are basically just wishes, and you keep on postponing the achievement of those goals. So target dates in future when certain financial objectives are expected to be completed. Now you can have certain long-term goals that you cover for a period of say 6 years or out to the next 30 to 40 years. That depends on your choices. Now when we talk of short-term financial goals, we are talking of normally 1 year, and would normally cover a period of anything like 10 to 12 months. And when we talk about intermediate goals, we are talking of the gaps between short and long-term goals, okay, which bridge the gap in between. Well, again, depends on which type of activity you're actually associated with. If somebody is dealing with forex, for him, even 10 minutes is long term. Okay, a few seconds may be intermediate term, and less than a nanosecond may be short term. It all depends. It all depends, because essentially it is your choice that would matter, choice of activity. Now, when we talk of personal financial life cycle, that is, you have early years, early childhood, then you have next stage, that is high school time, when you're actually going to high school and later college. Then you have family formation years, where you have certain change priorities, you look for towards family, then your career development, then pre-retirement and retirement. Now, at different stages, you take up different planning. Most of the planning starts taking place beyond 20 and normally should be launched before 30. Whether it is asset planning, asset acquisition planning, or liability or insurance planning, it is savings and investment planning, it is employment or somewhat related planning, it's tax planning. Even retirement planning has to start in mid-20s. So earlier you plan for retirement, the better it is, the better is going to be your retirement corpus, or the money you have with you, which gives you continuous flow of income without impacting your lifestyle. Okay. Don't postpone. Don't procrastinate. It is important to start early. That we'll be talking later, how early decisions have impact on your life. Now, when we talk of the types of financial planning, again, that we had talked just now, the first is asset acquisition. Normally should start in your mid-20s, before 30, then liability insurance almost the same time, saving and investment almost the same time, employee benefit planning almost the same time, tax planning maybe slightly earlier or later, and retirement estate planning should start right from the beginning. I think if you put the things in reverse order, in some cases the priorities might be like starting from retirement and later to asset acquisition, depending on your priorities, if you already some assets beforehand. Now, looking at how 1000 investment grows over time. Okay, and when we talk of this time, we are talking of certain growth rate, say about 6% or so. So 1000 rupees would be around 51,791 in 10 years, would be this will be 1,791 in 10 years, 3,207 in 20 years, 86,740 in 30 years, and 10,286 in 40 years. Now, if I take a 4% as rate of return, the same 10,000 would be far less, would be about 4,801 rupees in 40 years. Now, that is the type of difference that you face between 2% rate of return. Now, here I would introduce the concept of inflation. If there is slight inflation, your effective return of rate comes down very rapidly, and ultimately what you accumulate at the end is very little. So what is important is keep investing over a period of time, and non-inflationary periods will give you better return, inflationary periods will give you lesser returns. Now, financial planning concerns also involve managing finances through economically tough times, managing your employee benefits, that means in India, like your pension plans, like your returns on certain other employment benefits, your public provident funds and so on, and also in case you are two people in the family, two incomes in the family are coming, then of course you have to manage two incomes. Now, who are the financial planning players around you? Number one, government. The sources of revenue for business and wages of the consumers changes as the government policies change. Business is very important part of circular flow of income that sustains any free enterprise system. So business is one of the major sources of income. Then consumers' choice determines the kind of goods and services that the businesses provide. So ultimately, your own career planning would depend on government, business, and consumer choices as well. So when we talk of financial planning and management, there are flows between different sectors, between government, business, and the consumers. These flows can be seen anywhere in economics. Now, when we talk of the phases of income cycles, there is a period of expansion where real GDP increases unless it hits a peak. Then there is a peak where expansion ends and contraction begins. Then there is a period of contraction where real GDP falls, and there is a trough where economies contract and then expansion begins. At times, a trough, if there is some kind of depression, it might last for a long time. At times, very long time of 10 to 15 years also. So planning out your life becomes very, very essential. See, in fact, worst times are the best times to manage, because good times normally manage themselves. So this is typically a representative cycle of business, from expansion to peak to contraction to trough and again. So there's a kind of a linear trend going up, because most of economies, the real GDP is growing over a long period of time. Another variant in the economy which is important for your consideration is, as I talked, inflation, where general price level is increasing, thereby resulting into increase in the consumer price index. That means the same basket of goods and services now you'll be buying costlier. And also, as inflation increases, your purchasing power decreases for the same income. That means for every rupee that you spend, your purchasing power is coming down. Every rupee now has lesser purchasing power. You can buy lesser for same number of rupees. Also, the factors that determine personal income is the place of residence, because if you live in a metro, if you live in a middle class city, if you live in a village, you can feel the difference in the salaries that you earn. Also, there is a difference in living costs. Then career, that means all social, demographic, economic, and technological trends, they influence decisions regarding the fields that offer best opportunities for future. Here is a catch. Train yourself technologically, assess growth in future, find a sector and your competence in an area which is futuristic and relevant, and then try to put in your stakes, because that's how you're going to change your life. That's how you're going to change your career. And you're going to have a fulfilling career. So today what is important is ever learning attitude. Now the student life does not end with your college going years. It might start at that point of time, because as the knowledge is changing very rapidly and is becoming the major resource, knowledge source is a major resource today, you have to keep updating continuously. So what you are putting on your education is basically very, very important investment for future. So keep investing in learning as well. This is very important thing I suggest to most of my young friends whom I meet, and most of the elderly people also I meet. So also certain steps that are required are please identify your interests, skills, needs, and values. And based on those interests, skills, needs, and values, set a specific long-term and short-term career goals. Because as your values change, or interests change, or skills change, the short-term and long-term goals will also undergo change. Then develop an action plan to achieve these goals in terms of income, expenditure, investments, savings, etc. And also revise and review your career plans as situation changes, because situation would never be stationary. So you cannot have just one set of goals decided once in life and continue forever. You have to keep changing these things. You have to behave like a dynamic individual. Okay, so this was what we talked about. Okay, so important things are, again I'm just revising, and the certain key terms that I used, which are very important for personal financial planning. If we go to our own self, naturally standard of living that you want to have. Then how much would you save, decided by average propensity to consume. Wealth is a stock, and that ultimately would depend on the difference in your income and consumption. If your assets get consumed faster or your income gets consumed faster, wealth accumulation will be slower and vice versa. Then the tangible assets that you have, of course, that means externalities, land, building, your car or whatever it is extra. Intangible assets have to grow if you want to grow. That is your internal competence, your emotional stability, your emotional quotient, your financial intelligence quotient. That would all entail financial planning, personal financial planning. Then, as when we talked of goals, we talked of goals are to be dated. They cannot be without date. Similarly, when we talked of business cycle, we talked of peak, contraction, trough, inflation. We talked of consumer price index, we talked of purchasing power, we talked of expansion, and also we talked of flexible benefit plans, which we other terms call as cafeteria plans. So all these things are involved in financial planning. Take care of yourself, because this is the time when you start it. Start it today. All the best. We are closing here and moving towards the next chapter. So before we close, just one thing more, that sound financial planning is necessary for achieving financial goals. Number one, you have to plan what to do with your own money, and spending and investing it wisely, which involves again personal financial planning. Financial goals always always result in you achieving personal goals, and also since environment is dynamic, you have to be dynamic in taking decisions. Thank you very much. We end up here. Thanks a lot.